Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm happy now to be able to take the time now to talk a little bit about the weather that's going on. I haven't done a video since about Wednesday, I think. So I figured it was about time to get back on here again. So the weather here in Florida has gotten a little bit drier than it was earlier in the week. We had some spotty thunderstorms. We had like an upper level area of low pressure that was spinning over the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and that was kind of I was thinking that was going to bring us some stormier weather, but it actually didn't end up bringing us stormier weather. It brought us more cloud cover, over us, and it kept the temperatures actually cooler on Friday. I thought anyway. It was still, if you had to work outside, it was still pretty hot and humid out there. But for me, it was pretty nice when I walked out of my chilly office building, and I thought, wow, this is nice. So today was a beautiful day in Gainesville. We had a high temperature, probably around 90, with about 60% humidity. So it was still hot, but it wasn't 95 degrees and 85% humidity. So it was better today. So let me quickly show you what's going on here in the world of weather. And there we go. So right now we've got I'll show you just right here around the Intermountain West. You can see it's very nice and cool out here in Idaho, and also Washington, Oregon, most of Nevada and Utah, and even Colorado's. Well, western Colorado. I mean, eastern Colorado is pretty hot. Like Pueblo's in the low 90s. Denver, right around 88 degrees. But then you go up here into some of the other areas like Steamboat Springs, it's in the 70s. And then right here, 68 in Twin Falls, Idaho. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. I wish I was there right now. I was actually a missionary out there 20 years ago. Down here in Las Vegas, Henderson, Nevada, it's 94 still for a high. Although up here in Elko, Nevada, 69 was the high today. Man, so what's going on here is let's get my telestration going and let me show you what's causing this cooler weather across the west. I'm gonna have to use kind of a strange color. I'm gonna use pink. And let's use this one. So when we have the jet stream is coming down like this, you basically have a big sharp trough over the west. This is what they talk about in the Weather Channel and other news agencies. They talk about ridges and troughs. I'm gonna show you what that is. And so that trough lifts up very abruptly like this. So this right here is a trough, and usually there's an upper level low situated here. And right here is a ridge, usually a high pressure area here. So the wind flow pattern goes like this. So that's the reason it's so hot over the center of the country, the Great Plains. It's in Texas. It's super hot because you have this continental hot, dry air coming off of inland Mexico like this. It's rising north ahead of this trough. And then on the backside here, of course, you got the pattern, the way the air flows around the low pressure is like this. And so it's pulling down some nice cool air from northwest Canada and then down off the Pacific Northwest into the Pacific Northwest and down in Nevada where it's unseasonably cool right now. So here in the East Coast, it's seasonably warm, but it's not extremely hot. However, in places like Oklahoma and Kansas, it's unusually hot right now. So that's a little bit of a weather lesson in troughs and ridges. And these actually, like I've talked about in other videos, this is what primarily controls hurricanes. That's what helps determine what direction they go. It's these troughs and ridges. Hurricanes don't have I forgot what I was going to say. Contrary to popular theory, hurricanes don't have minds of their own. They're controlled by the larger weather systems around them, which are these upper level troughs and upper level ridges. So let me go on now, and I'm going to show you a little bit of the satellite maps right now. Let's see what's going on across the Atlantic here. So let's go ahead and take a visible shot, load this, and see what the heck's going on. Because we don't really have a lot going on. It's actually wonderful news. Now, let me take this cursor again. Look right here. Now, this is a pretty good rotating area coming off the coast of Africa right now. If it wasn't for all this, see this area up here, all this in here, I'm making these messy marks. That's a whole bunch of dry and somewhat dusty air coming off the African coast here, north of Senegal, coming off of the Morocco area. And you can see how the edge of it kind of comes out right here. super dry air. That's the reason nothing out of this is going to develop. In fact, it's supposed to be by late August. This should be some really robust looking low pressure areas coming off of Africa right now and developing as they move west. But dry air has been winning the day here. We've had a ton of dry air. This reminds me of the 2013 hurricane season where ocean temperatures across the Atlantic were super warm. They were expecting a gangbuster year in 2013. And what happened? There was just a bunch of dry air out here. It would not let up. And on top of that, we had upper level winds coming screaming out of the west like this across the tropical Atlantic, and nothing was able to get going. In fact, that was the only year that not a single major hurricane developed. It was extremely quiet year. There was only 12 named storms that year. It was, and they were all mostly tropical storms and Cat 1 hurricanes. So it was a really crazy year. This year has been different. We actually have had two major hurricanes this year already. Oh, wait, take that back. No, just one. And that was Beryl, which tracked along like this, as you remember, came across, hit Texas like that. Well, it didn't take that exact path. That's a little too far south, but you get the picture. And then, of course, Debbie brought a whole bunch of rain all along this area, all along the East Coast, up into New Hampshire, New York, Vermont, caused massive flooding and all along the East Coast. So what am I seeing here? Let me get a different color. I hate that hot pink. That's ugly. Come on. What's this thing doing? It's not responding. Oh, duh, because you're on the eraser still, Ian. Okay. Okay, let's look at this again. So look, we've got clearly got an upper level low right here over the Gulf. That's not going to develop because that's in the upper atmosphere. But it is creating some disturbed weather across South Florida, some high clouds. And you can see this is basically a frontal boundary right here. It's extending all the way from the South Carolina coast all the way up here to a low pressure area across the North Atlantic. It's a non-tropical low pressure. And then you have all this dry air way out here all across the Atlantic. You have your Bermuda Azores high, which is situated right about here. I'm sorry, this is a mess, but basically the wind flow is like this around this upper high. And the dry air from Africa is being wedged down here like this, right in the path of these tropical low pressure areas coming west. They're crashing right into it and they're getting destroyed. So until this dry air abates, we're not going to see any development out here. Now, I will say this, there is one computer model, and let me show you real quick. The CMC model is showing some development. This is the Canadian model. Here it is right here. We're going to go down here to the tropical Atlantic here. Here we go. Now watch, around September the 1st, you're going to see this area with a low pressure area around 1,009 millibars. That's a tropical depression strength. So let's put this into motion here. This is the Canadian model. Go down here. I'm going to make it where you can see the date. Look at that, August 26th. So a low pressure area does kind of form off the coast of Africa around the 27th, 28th, which is next Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Something is trying to develop, but then there's just too much dry air up here. Finally, on the 30th, a low pressure area does get spinning up about 1,000 miles east of Barbados. And sure enough, another low pressure behind it comes in and combines with it. And it looks like we have a depression developing by the 31st and 1st of September and moving towards the islands as a tropical storm. That's only one model, though. Here's the GFS model. Let me show you here. It's really not showing much of anything out here. Let me show you here. Okay, can you see the date? So the GFS is trying to show something developing around the 29th, but there's just a lot of dry air out here. It's not allowing anything to happen. Meanwhile, look over here towards Florida and Texas. There's a lot of moisture in these areas represented by the green. This is probably a tropical wave that's going to be moving over Florida around Sunday and Monday, which would be September 1st and 2nd. So Labor Day is going to be wet in Florida, unfortunately. But as you can see, around August 31st and September 2nd, no development here near the Caribbean islands. So for right now, we're not seeing anything. Oh, now wait, let me go back here real quick. The GFS is showing, for what it's worth, all this moisture you see across the Gulf of Mexico let's zim up here. Zim. I made another made up word. Uh, let's just put this in motion here. Watch the dates, September 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Very moisture-laden atmosphere across the south. We do get a low pressure area, according to the GFS, trying to develop across the Gulf of Mexico on September 5th, 6th, and 7th. So we could have another area of low pressure, a tropical depression perhaps, that could develop across the Gulf and bring a bunch of rain to the Gulf Coast and the northern part of Florida again around the first week of September. Um, but I think the focal point of development is going to be the southern Gulf of Mexico, the Bay of Campeche, maybe the northwestern Caribbean, maybe over near the Bahamas between about the 4th of September and the 8th of September. So as of right now, there's nothing going on. It's looking pretty good. So I think we're good to go. I will definitely report in if I see any big changes in the models. Have a good night, everybody.